Today we're going to talk about some common mistakes that are made in framing that can really mess the whole project up. So it's kind of important. A lot of the layout, initial layout is really important. Chad's working over on the chop saw over there, cutting some window parts. So we'll go over those once he's got those cut, and we'll talk about allowing for things. I wish there was an acronym for allow, like always leave low overhead wires or something, you know. Anyway, so this building is going to be 24 by 24 salt box. So we're going to do the wall layouts first. Pressure treated on the bottom plate, spruce for the top plate. 2x4 12 pressure treated is around $7 a stick. 2x4 12 spruce is $6.77 per stick, and 2x4 8 spruce is $3.35, just as a little point of reference. So let's start laying out a wall, and we'll talk about some things here. Wall 1 is going to be 24 feet long. So all of the lumber is never the correct length, very rarely. So we have to mark each one. 12 feet. I butted them up down on the other end. So they're both 12 feet to start with. Go over and cut these while the saw is available. Okay, so we've cut the first wall section 12 feet long exactly. The first potential mistake is we're doing 16 centers. That's what we call it for stud spacing. So 16 inches is right there, but you don't want to put the stud like over here. You need to hold back 3/4 of an inch. And we line up both of these so they're butted up, so that when you mark this one, you just transfer the mark there, and then you've made them the same. That's first potential huge big mistake that we didn't make yet. This first wall section is going to have a window in it. So again, we're holding back 3/4 and making the mark. I'll just mark the spruce, and then I'll transfer all the marks onto the treated. So we go down through here, holding back 3/4 on every 16-inch mark. Until we get to the end, there's going to be a window. Come on down here and we'll take a look at the window. This window is going to be centered in the overall length of wall 1. And let me explain that again. I know I've explained it. The way we number the walls is though we were standing in the center of the garage, looking at the overhead doors straight ahead. So we always go clockwise. So wall 1 is over to our right. The back wall is number 2. That wall is number 3. Garage door opening number 4. So that's the basis of where we start. Then to take it a step further, it's a 24-foot length building, so we're doing 2 12-foot sections per wall. This window in wall 1, and we'll number wall 1 down on the left end. We'll number it 1-1, and the second section will be 1-2. The window is 36 inches rough opening. Half of the window will be on this wall, the other half will be on the next section. So half of 36 is 18. This is where we have to allow for a jack stud and a king stud. Also, there will be half a stud, or in this case it'll be a cripple, halfway on this wall and halfway on this wall. So we'll make a mark at 3/4 So we know that this cripple is going to hang over both wall sections. I'll just transfer these over. We put an X on the side that we want the stud to be nailed to. Some people will draw a line on both sides. I don't. Probably saves millions of dollars in lead by not doing that. Does save a little time. So over here we're showing the king stud. In this case it does have one on each side, but that's because there's a jack stud next to it. And then one cripple on each side of it. Mark that 1-1, both of those, so we know those go together. We always mark it on the left side as you're inside the building looking at the where the wall will be. So we know that this will go to the left side, not over there. So now we'll go on to 1-2. This is wall section 1-2, and normally I would just start there on the left end and mark the 16s as I come across, but I just wanted to show you have to mark this again. Again, those are butted up down there, so they're the same at 12 feet. So we'll have a 12, and 12 is 24. We'll go cut these and bring them back. If you remember, on wall section 1-1, we had half of a window. So this is going to be the other half, and it'll be on the left side. So because we put, the other thing that we always do is we put the last stud we put on the first section of wall. So it doesn't need one on this section. So I won't even make a mark there, because if there's a mark there, people will want to put a stud or a cripple there. So we leave that out. So we're going 18 inches because that's half of the 30. See, I just marked that wrong. Of the 36 inches rough opening, and that should say jack stud. So we go 1.5 inches for that, then another 1.5 inches for the king stud. Then we've marked out where the window goes. That's all set. Now we can just go all the way down through 16 on center. Chad's assembling the door and window openings over on a table. We'll show that in a minute or two. We'll number that wall down there, wall 1, section 2. The stud will be completely on. It'll end right there. So it'll be full on the end because it's the last stud. So I don't know if I mentioned the significance of holding back 3/4. If you have a 4-foot sheet of plywood, you want the end of that plywood to end halfway on a stud. That's why you do the 16s. So we're going, hold on. Wall 2 is different. So I'll lay both wall sections out, wall section 2-1 and 2-2. I'll do them together. We'll butt these up. Instead of being 12 feet, these will be 11 feet, 8.5 inches. So we have to cut this much off of each one. I think I'll cut those now. There, okay, so now we'll mark these out and I'll explain where this is quite often a really serious mistake made. Okay, so I'm starting basically at the middle of the building. It's 24 feet across, there's no windows, but to do on that end we have to cut them shorter, and I'll explain that when I get down there. I'm only going, this is wall 2, section 1, wall 2, section 2. So just on wall section 1, I'm going to do an overlapping, the stud will overlap onto this one. But so I don't want to put the marks here because that would be a duplication and it would mess everything up. So again, we go 16 centers, holding back 3/4 of an inch. And the reason we're doing that is because plywood or whatever we're using, OSB, is 4 feet or 8 feet increments. So if you do that every 16 inches, everything will end halfway on a stud, which is very desirable. 3/4 of an inch back each time. And then, oh, look, we had to cut 3.5 inches off here of both sections because you have to allow for the thickness of wall 1 and wall 3 in your calculations. If you don't do that way, let's see where. So if a sheet of plywood or OSB starts there, it has to go 4 feet to the end of the building. So it will actually be nailed into the wall section. In this case, it'll be wall section 4 that it's tying into. So that's a super important part. If you don't cut that off, your plywood's going to run weird, and it's not going to. It's going to be wasteful. You end up cutting a lot and wasting a lot. So to repeat, this wall section 2-1. This is both of these are the middle of the wall. These be turned around so that it's full length. We're only putting one stud on the halfway on to the end of a wall section, if I can say that correctly. I don't know how many X's I've drawn in my life, but quite a few. There's no windows in this back wall. It's facing the neighbor's backyard, and they just didn't want one there. This is the left side of wall section 2-1. Down on this one, down there will be the start of wall section 2-2. Wall section 3, we'll mark all of these. These are treated and a spruce. I'm going to mark all of this out. There's going to be a window and an entry door, man door. 3 feet in from the corner. So I make a mark at 36. Inch and a half, that's for the jack. Another 1.5 inches for the king stud. Okay. Over here is going to be the door. This will be the window. So we want 36. The rough opening for the window is 36. So there'll be a jack stud, king stud, JX. We'll also mark in the cripples. Those will be every 16. The door is different for the width. So we'll put a mark at 36. Come back 1.5 inches for the jack stud, 1.5 inches for king stud. The door, it's a 3-foot door, 36 inch. So the rough opening is always 2.5 inches more than what, like if it's a 36 inch door, your rough opening will be 38.5. So because Chad's a genius, he has allowed in the header for that difference. Okay, then the rest will be 16 centers. There'll be a stud fully on all the way across there. So I already marked it wrong on one end. These will be, because that's the start of the wall, these studs will be halfway on. That's bad mistake on my behalf. Let me correct that now. There will be a stud here because it's the end of the wall. No, this is the start of the wall. There won't be a stud here. I'm flipped around so it's confusing me very easily. Both wall sections are laid out. So this is 3-1. You can see as we go down, we come to, this is a window across here, there. This is a mirror image, except this is a door opening across on wall 3-2. The door opening is wider by 2.5 inches than the window. Then we have all the 16-inch marks. You see I have wall section 2 here, so this will turn around and butt up to wall section 3-1. And the stud will sit halfway on this one and halfway on this one. So when it gets on site, it will look absolutely conventionally built, like it was stick built on site. You can see this lumber is twisted a little bit. So here I am talking about common mistakes made. Living proof is what I am. So this is wall 4. Do you remember how I said you need to allow for, well, first I need a pencil. It's in my pocket. Wall 4 is going to be 3.5 inches, each section will be 3.5 inches shorter, just like wall 2, which is the back wall. I just marked all of these at 12 foot and cut them. It is so aggravating to get on the job site and find out you've done this. Fortunately, I was just getting ready to do the layout, and I remembered that you have to deduct 3.5 inches. So there you go. Living proof I am not perfect. There's only one perfect. Okay. All right. Let me recut these. Wall section 4 will have 2 sections at 11 feet, 8.5 inches. So I'll start again in the middle, because it's not, you'd be off 16 centers if you started out at the end. You have to start in the middle to do the layout. The doors are 9 feet wide. That's the rough opening. So you have a 24-foot building minus 18, leaves 6 feet. So it'd be 2 foot, a 9-foot door, 2 feet, 9-foot door, 2 feet. Very simple, in theory. So this is the middle section. There'll be a stud catching halfway on. Need to note it that way. I'll show you a close-up of this in a minute. There'll only be 1 foot in the middle on each wall section. So you have 1 foot, and another foot on this one, gives you that 2 feet in the middle. So 1 foot, then you come back to this side, 1.5 inches for the jack, 1.5 inches for the king. Then 9 feet for the door opening. I just added a foot to the 9, so it's 10 feet hooked on. 1.5 inches jack stud, 1.5 inches king stud. And there'll be a stud. This wall section will be turned around and butt up to that end so that they'll all make sense. Wall section 1 starts here with 4-1 with the garage door stud and jack stud, and a 9-foot opening, stud, jack stud, and a stud halfway on at the end of this one, this wall section will be turned around, and this stud will also be halfway on this one. And again, we don't make the marks on this one, otherwise we'd end up putting 2 studs on, and then go right back down through. That is all the wall plates. These are all currently in order. All the like 1 1 2 1 3 1 4 1 are on the bottom. 1 2 2 2 3 2 4 2 are on the top. Depending on how soon these are going out of here onto the trailer will depend on what order we build them. We always try to think of it so that 1 1 is on top of the trailer when we get to the job site. So in this case, it's probably going to be built and stacked outside. So in order to do that, we want to start with wall 1 1. We'll build it, take it out, 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 3 1 3 2 4 1 4 2. We'll build them out there so that the top wall section will be 4 2. So when we back the trailer up, we'll start loading this one, and in reverse order, then we get all the way down to 1 1. That has nothing to do with, well, it kind of has to do with making mistakes. It just slows us down a little on site if we do that. So I made one mistake in showing you how not to make mistakes, but fortunately we caught it here and we should be good to go. Let's watch and see what Chad's been doing, okay? Just to make absolutely sure we got this clear, looking down, aerial view of the garage, we'll say, you have a wall, 2x4 wall. You're looking down and the studs are periodic, like that. When you do the wall 2, this is wall 1, so wall 2 is going to butt into that. So if you don't subtract 3.5 inches for this wall, and you start with a stud here, for instance, and went 16, 20, 16, 32, 48, and you were over here for the center of a stud, if you tried to start here with your plywood and went over, you'd fall short by 3.5 inches. That's why you have to be sure to allow for that. Super important, as I just found out. After we've made all the walls and they're up in place, we put on a second top plate. So if this was the first top plate that the studs are all nailed to, there's going to be and then we'll say wall, so that's wall 1. This is wall number 2, going that way. We put a second plate on, and that will tie in the corners. So it will actually go to there and head out. So we've overlapped this wall with the top plate of this wall. And then we'll just proceed around that way, and then we nail through there, and it ties that all together really well. When we make these plates, we will mark them for trusses. On this particular garage that we're doing, it's a salt box, so trusses are, if this is the back wall and the front wall is here, the trusses are running from here this way, like that. And they're spaced 2 feet apart. So when we make this plate, we'll start here, there'll be a truss, a gable end truss all the way down through here. Then we'll mark 2 feet, and that will be again to the center. So we'll hold back 3/4 of an inch, and that will automatically center the truss, so that as we go across, if it was a 4-foot sheet of plywood, which we don't do here, it's a whole nother story. We usually overhang the plywood a foot to create an overhang, so it would be a 5-foot sheet of plywood that would end right here, come up 4 feet and over a foot, like that. Then the 3 feet that we cut off of this, we will use as a starter sheet on the second course. Just like that. And nail it off appropriately. And then a full 8-foot sheet, and so on. Till you get to the end, then you have to plan something different for down there. But anyway, that's for the top plates. How we do it, we overlap them, and we'll mark these plates out, especially wall 2 and wall 4, now, so that when we nail them up, all the plates are marked and we don't have to climb up on ladders or do anything. It's all done. There's also a 2x4 spacer that will go halfway. If this was 12 feet from this corner, if this was halfway, there'd be a 2x4 spacer going all the way across to space the bottom chords of all the trusses to make them equal. This is typical construction of a rough window opening. We'll use 2x10 doubled with a filler to make it the same width as the 2x4, like this. And so the rough opening is 36 inches wide. It's 46 inches high or long. So we cut these jack studs on each side at 46 inches. This, because we wanted a 36-inch rough opening, the header has to be longer to catch over these studs, so you add 3 inches to that. So instead of 36, it'll be 39. You can see Chad wrote it on the sill plate down there. So that by doing 39, that makes the space 36 by 46, all nailed together. So it's made as a unit. We have them all made, set aside, stacked, and ready to put into the walls when we assemble the walls. That completes the video. Okay. No more mistakes from now on. I think we're all set. Yes, and a couple more weeks, I finally get to go and get an MRI on my wrist. It got a pretty good workout today, just moving lumber around. I'm okay with it. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later. Leave a comment, hit the like button. If you're not a subscriber, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe. Thanks.